If you imagine those Goosebumps novels that you used to read as a kid at school, that were normally targeted towards children, and imagine those stories being much more mature and targeted towards adults, in that they will be more violent, more disturbing, and generally a lot scarier or creepier. If you imagine that, then you would be probably thinking of Uzumaki. As this is kind of what it reminded me of. It reminded me of those classic Goosebumps stories that you read as a kid, but this is a lot more disturbing, as it is targeted towards adults. Now, why might you ask, do I make the comparison to Goosebumps of all things? Well, mostly it's due to the fact that Uzumaki is told episodically. Each chapter tells its own story concerning each individual character's unique to that chapter, which makes for a really enjoyable reading experience, as each chapter deals with something completely different and you get a fresh story told with the same theme. Because basically Uzumaki, which is Japanese for spiral, centers around the pattern, the spiral, and a small fictional Japanese town, Karuzucho, which is terrorized and haunted by the spiral pattern. Now, the way Junji Ito deals with this, he deals with it in a really unique way, in which the pattern basically haunts and possesses people in unique and different ways. But the most common symptom in realizing that somebody is possessed by the spiral is that they will start being very paranoid and start becoming obsessed with anything that is related to spiral. So if they see like a pattern, or for example, in one case in an early story, snail shells with the spiral pattern on, they'll become gravely obsessed. And this will develop into where people are literally wanting to fashion their own body parts into spiral-like patterns by breaking their bones and, you know, curling their arms and fingers up and the legs up into basically coils and becoming an actual spiral. Now, even though each chapter in this manga is told episodically, towards the end of the manga, the stories do converge into one overall plot. Concerning the main character Kirie Goshima and her boyfriend Shuichi, I believe his name was, and them trying to save the town from essentially being destroyed by this spiral. It's not a ghost. It's not any sort of form. It's literally just the spiral, and they're trying to work out why exactly this is happening to their town. And they eventually do realize why it's happening and try to prevent it from completing itself and completing this spiral structure. So it is very, very good in both of those respects, that if you want to just read something that's episodic but you also do want a plot, you know, this manga does combine those two elements. The most important reason, however, as to why you would want to consider reading this manga is for its all-out portrayal of body horror. The way Junji Ito draws his characters in this series and how they slowly fashion themselves into spirals, and how they slowly become deeply obsessed, and you can see that, like, the mental fatigue and their body's exhaustion, and you know how he does the facial expressions for how normal people, normal everyday people, family members, friends, you know, people who are happy, slowly descend into this obsessive lifestyle is nothing short of sublime. Even in the opening of the story, Junji Ito sets us up for something that's going to be very creepy. Before even the spiral like events start occurring in the town itself is a very creepy place, being like constantly shrouded in fog and on a seaside next to a really creepy lighthouse. So it's just got that really, really eerie setting from the outset, and you know that, you know, really, really disturbing stuff is going to be going down. Now, this manga is told from a first person's perspective, from the perspective of Kirie Goshima herself, where she narrates us through the manga and through the whole story. Basically giving us an account of what happened within that story. So she's talking about this in the past tense, giving us the inclination that she, you know, somehow manages to survive or overcome what happens within the town, which throughout the entire story kind of gave me a sense of closure before I even got to the ending. As I thought, well, she's narrating it, so she must somehow survive or get through this somehow. The ending was a massive shocker to me. I'm not, obviously, no spoilers, but the ending was actually really good in this series. I did not expect it to go in the direction that it went in. It kind of blew me for a loop, and I was very impressed with the ending. If you are, however, looking for well-developed, interesting characters, then this is probably not the manga for you. This focuses more on the events happening, and the effects of the town, you know, itself and the people within it, rather than, you know, trying to develop the people, you know, the actual main characters themselves. And Junji Ito tries to attempt to do this by introducing things like melodrama and having, you know, family members be involved, you know, horrifically within the events that are happening. But it doesn't really work that well for me because the story is so creepy and the characters are designed so creepily when they, you know, become obsessed. That, you know, you don't really feel any, you know, sense of attachment from them. You just kind of, they become more of a threat rather than people that you need to save, which, you know, I think is not the direction that Junji Ito, you know, really excels with. Well, I think he does excel with that. What I mean is that I don't think he excels in creating characters where you become sympathetic towards them, as he's much more, more prolific at designing and writing characters that are much more threatening. And Junji writes characters who were initially loving and, you know, family oriented, but due to the obsession of the spiral, become, you know, dark and inhibit the negative human attributes like, you know, greed and jealousy and things like that. To the point where you just cannot empathize with them, and they become just threats to the main characters, and the only ones who you really root for are the main characters, who aren't even really that well developed to start with. You know, Kirie Goshima herself seems to kind of take everything on board, you know, relatively easily, and you know, chapter by chapter, you know, she's featuring every single chapter in this story, obviously because she's the main character, but she doesn't really, there isn't any noticeable mental toll or mental exhaustion, you know, taking into account that everything that's happening, like her friends, her family, you know, everybody around her is basically being destroyed by the spiral in really, really freaky and disturbing ways, to the point where, you know, I'm surprised that after the first chapter she didn't have a mental breakdown and end up in a psychiatric hospital. She just seems too unrealistic. But this is a manga that focuses on realism, so overall this is a manga you definitely want to read on a rainy day. Save it for one of those times where you do have time to kind of marathon all the way through it, especially if you've got the one volume edition like me. As it is definitely worth the read. It's very, very, very creepy. It's not very scary, which is something I was surprised with. That I would have thought that it would have focused more on tension and, you know, that really, you know, like terror, but it's more just creepy. It's, ooh, that's really creepy, you know, that kind of thing. But definitely worth a read. It's still in print, which is good. If you do want to buy this manga, go out and get it. It's definitely worth a read. If you want to support me, you know, be sure to check out, you know, buying it on Book Depository. You can use my affiliate link, which is in the description below. They give free worldwide shipping. I get commission off every sale. It helps me out. But yeah, definitely read Uzumaki. It is definitely worth it. So yeah, go out and get it. Junji Ito is a very, very great mangaka. Bye.